looking for having it be 6 o'clock on the clock on the wall.
I think you're asking for
Yeah,
a lot.
that clock is accurate now.
You got 18 seconds.
Well, I love it when the audience is excited about getting into the meeting.
No.
All right. I'd like to call this meeting of the Dexter Township Zoning Board of Appeals to order for the evening. Would you join me in Pledge of Allegiance? A Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Has everybody had a chance to look at the agenda? Are there any suggested changes to the agenda? Hearing none, the agenda is approved as submitted. We'll move along to approval of the minutes. Does anyone have any suggested changes to the minutes from last month's meeting?
Mr. Chair, I do not have any, I didn't even find punctuation, so perhaps I'm falling down on the job. I just wanted to say, I was not at the last meeting, but I will be voting on approval of the minutes. Just a comment on minutes. There's a general misunderstanding that if you were not at a meeting, how can I possibly, certify that the minutes were okay? But both Robert's Rules of Order and statute would support that you're not certifying that you were an eyewitness to the proceedings. You're just expressing your confidence that the secretary, recording secretary, whatever, have accurately captured whatever the actions were. And in some cases, I don't think we specifically talk about abstentions at ZBA. I think our bylaws, planning commission do, and in general, you're not allowed to abstain unless you have a conflict of interest. So we've sometimes had confusion at various bodies in the past. So anyhow, my parliamentary comments for the evening.
What would a public body be without confusion?
Well, and when you think about it, when there's massive transition on a public body,
Yeah.
how could the new people coming in ever approve the minutes of the last meeting of the old people that left? So
True enough, true enough. Well, I believe that, yes?
I don't know if Brooke corrected on page 4, the statement, the copy of the minutes that I have that were in the physical packet did not include the correction of the statement made with regard to section 3.
Yes.
On page 4. Did he correct that?
No, I'm with you. I picked it
Okay.
up and it doesn't, there's no,
There's no correction yet on the statement made on page 4, Brooke.
Uh-oh.
So I think we will need to correct that statement. And once that's corrected, I would be happy to approve the minutes.
Can the
Or
recording
make a
secretary say
motion.
something? Because that was not clear on the recording.
Okay.
Oh, I
And
see.
I didn't write it down word for word when I was taking the
Yeah.
minutes.
Well, that seems like a good thing to fix.
Yeah.
is it necessary that we actually, I mean, obviously, lots of people say lots of things that aren't in the minutes. Is there some particular reason why this particular comment here has to be in the minutes?
Only because I feel like it's the reason for saying yes there, and there was my comment
Okay.
for saying no.
And I watched it after the fact on live stream, and I didn't, catch what that was, but I wasn't too worried
Well,
about it.
it's the, is it self-created? And I'm sure that what I meant to say was, I'm going to say yes because they did not do anything to actually create this situation. They being the property owners.
Okay.
Does that work?
That works, I think, because the other position was that no, the no was because the thought was that there was no practical difficulty. So therefore, there not being any practical
Any practical
difficulty,
difficulty.
one would not be self-creating. So I think that your answer is appropriate.
Okay. good.
Yes, And that is commonly, when you get to that and you vote that way, you do often comment on, they didn't make the lot small, they did,
Right,
whatever the,
right.
whatever
Yeah.
it was.
Right.
So that's probably correct.
Yes. All right,
So then
What-
I'd like to
what-
make a motion to approve the minutes.
please.
With the alteration mentioned by Brooke.
I will do that, I will correct the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Who made the motion, Bert?
The motion was made by Beth, and it was seconded by Marty.
That was Peter.
Oh, I'm sorry. And we all voted yes. Are there any nays? No, there are no nays. Okay, I gotta go back and find my agenda. That brings us to the public comment on non-agenda items portion of our meeting. Are you all here to talk to us about something that's not on the agenda? All right, then we'll move along to public hearing review procedure. We'll skip over that. Well, if anybody's obstreperous, we'll talk about it. Item 7, item 1 on our action items is 23 ZBA 003, Joseph Holowicki. And the question for the ZBA members is, do we have any reported conflicts or ex parte contact?
I don't have conflicts or ex parte conflict. I'm just good friends with the neighbor across the road, but we've never discussed the property. We've never had any issues, and I don't see where it would be of any bearing other than I feel like I should raise it because, again, I'm good friends with the people across the
Do
street.
you feel that it would impair
No,
your
I
ability
don't believe
to?
it's going to impair my ability this evening.
Okay. All right. And no other revelations? Let's move along to staff presentation.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Nice to see you again. This is, as Brooke alluded, this is 23 ZBA 003, Mr. Holowicki. This is for a single-family residence on 7500 Noah's Landing. I take it everybody had an opportunity to go out and visit the site. It's a very nice site, but a very small parcel, obviously about 5,900 square feet. So as you could probably tell when you were out there visiting, there was some, I believe it was storm damage. Yeah, there's a big patch on the roof, and I think that's what spurred this remodel and addition. So it's a small single-family home. They are proposing to add a second story to it. The only expansion of the existing footprint will be a 3.6 expansion to the south, which will run the length of the house, so about 122 square feet. The variances are triggered by that addition as well as the additional height. Outside of that addition, the footprint nor the deck is changing. Everything will be exactly as it is today and as you saw it out there on your inspection. So the applicant's asking for a reduced setback on the roadside of 12 feet. And of course, this is a through lot as well, too, for anybody who has a question. So we have 2 fronts, 2 sides. So 12 feet on the west side of the lot as opposed to 25, and 11 feet on the east side as opposed to the 25 required. So I've been out there twice. The sign is up. It was staked, and it seems to be a fairly straightforward request, but I'm happy to answer any questions. The applicant and the builder are also here to shed any additional light on anything I cannot answer.
Question?
Mr. Chair, question for David. I was a bit unclear. So the variance is for the east and the west, both front setbacks.
Yes.
Is that, whatever, the 12 feet and 11 feet, is that what they are presently? Because the footprint is only expanding toward the neighbor 3.5 feet.
That's exactly what they are presently. So on the east side, the deck is projecting into the front yard. They're permitted projection, but only 5 feet. The deck's
Okay.
11 feet, so that triggers that. On the west side, the expansion to the south doesn't affect the side setback, but it still is in the front setback because it's 12 feet from the edge of the road right of way.
Gotcha, thank you.
Sure.
I guess my question is, in terms of recognition of nonconformities, Should we be more precise about what we're recognizing? Is one of the concerns that I had. If we just say that we're recognizing that it's not meeting the minimum lot area, I guess that's okay, but when we say that we're recognizing that the front setbacks aren't there, should we say 12 feet and 11 feet, which are,
We could, it's also noted in the land use standards directly above it, but I could cite it if the ZBA would prefer that we
I'm
give.
just, that combined with, the other thing that's not clear to me is, what about the shed?
The shed is is a non-conforming existing
And that,
structure.
shouldn't we also be recognizing the shed as an existing?
Well, the shed, and technically the shed would fall into the front setback requirement, so, but I could also note that as well.
Well, the shed's in the side lot, isn't it?
The shed is in the side lot, but again, the shed is existing, we're not expanding the shed. The
Well, no, I was
shed's-
just thinking in terms of recognized nonconformities.
Sure.
And then the next question I have, based on the data that we have been presented with, is where is the shed? There are some drawings that show it on the lot line. There's other drawings that claim that it's 5 feet off the lot line. Can't be 5 feet off the lot line, because if it were, it'd be so close to the house that you couldn't get.
Yeah, the shed was noted in the survey, so I believe it is off the lot line. But honestly, the shed did not receive a whole lot of attention because it is an existing structure and wasn't being expanded.
Okay. But just thinking about creating a record for the future.
Sure, of course.
When we say we're recognizing a nonconformity. Okay, any other questions?
I think those were great ideas for the very reason that you stated. So we get it on the record, and there's no question, after us, what was recognized back in 23.
Sure.
And also, while I could deduce that, from what was written and from the drawing, what the existing setbacks were, I think it would be a really good idea to just explicitly show that in the recognition of nonconformities for that same reason.
Okay, any other questions for the Director of Planning and Zoning? No? All right, then I have to find my agenda. Ready for the petitioner presentation.
Basically, we have this cottage in our, Jan and I have had a place for about 23 since 2000. My parents had it since 57. It was originally bought in 27. Unfortunately, we had a tree fall, take it down. So we want to make this, like we want to move out there at some point in time. So as you see, if you were out there, the place is old. So wish is that we could make it just a little bit bigger and then be a retirement home. So.
Okay.
I'd like to say, you always talk about a hardship, and the hardship is that since it's a through lot, there's no envelope to build a house on. So he's just adding a little bit to the side of that to create enough for a master bedroom on the first floor and then just a bedroom on the second floor for guests and family. It's a 1,300 square foot small cottagey looking, and renders itself well in the neighborhood, and it's not a tall, high-pitched roof or anything like that, so it seems like it's a pretty good option for what you get.
Anything else before we start peppering you with questions? Any questions by the members of the ZBA for the applicant? Apparently, everybody's hungry.
I was just to say, have you been there long enough? Are you sure you know what you want to do with that property?
All right, well, that sounds good. I guess then we are ready for the public hearing. We'll let any of your neighbors that want to come up and talk to us express their feelings. Anybody have anything they want to tell us?
My name, John Fisher.
John, what?
Fisher, F-I-S-H-E-R,
Thank you.
7425 Noah's Landing. Unfortunately, in August, the tree went through the house and destroyed the cottage. I've been there for 50-some years, and it needs to be updated. Time to update it after the tree goes through, and we have no problems. We've seen the plan. We like what Joe's going to attempt to do.
Good. Someone else want to tell us anything exciting?
Mike Dorsey, 7511 Noah's Landing. I am in the cottage immediately to the north of Joe. We've been there for, my wife Kathy and I have been there for 17 years, and Joe has been the ultimate neighbor. There is no one that loves North Lake more than Joe Holloway. I will tell you that right now. And we have reviewed the plans, and we are very excited for his revisions to his house, and we fully support what he plans to do.
Very good. Someone else like to speak to us? All right. Hearing no one, we'll close the public hearing, find out if there are any documents in the file that we need to be aware of.
No emails, no phone calls, no letters.
Okay? Then I think we're ready for deliberations and standards of review. Anybody have any thoughts on this? I'm not sure it's been minutes.
There is clearly a practical difficulty with this lot. I'll just throw it out there. I don't see how you're gonna build on this lot without any variance, And this, I don't, to address the minimum. Yeah, I think what they're asking for is reasonable in terms of size, and I don't think they're asking for anything that is overbearing. I think it's commensurate with the size of the lot, as best as it can be.
From what I see here, the dimensions that are the problem are not the dimensions that are being expanded upon, so I don't see any issue with it.
Okay. Then all I have to do is find my decision matrix, and we can move forward.
Get closer.
I am,
No,
but
now your pages are
Oh,
stapled
wait a minute,
together.
just use my,
I'm going to be using your decision criteria, because I don't see them in my package here. All right. There are going to be just two issues to decide. The first is the reduction of the west setback of 12 feet rather than 25 feet. And the second is the reduction of the east setback to 11 feet rather than 25 feet that's required. Our first criteria is practical difficulty, 2906C1. The strict application of the terms of this ordinance would constitute a practical difficulty. And we'll just go for two answers from everyone.
Yes and yes.
Beth,
yes and yes.
Marty,
Yes, yes.
Peter?
Yes, yes.
And the chair votes yes and yes as well. 2, physical condition, 2906C2. The practical difficulty is due to some physical condition peculiar to the property involved.
Yes and yes.
Beth,
Yes and yes.
Yes, yes.
Peter?
Yes, yes.
Chair votes yes and yes as well. 3 is self-created, 2906C3. The practical difficulty is not self-created.
Yes and yes.
Beth?
Yes and yes.
Yes, yes.
Yes, yes.
And the chair votes yes and yes as well. 4, reasonable amount necessary. The variant, I'm sorry, that's 2906C4. The variance is the reasonable amount, is the reasonable minimum amount necessary to mitigate the practical difficulty.
Yes, and yes.
Yes and yes.
Marty?
Yes and yes, for the reason that there is no further expansion in the either front yard setback.
Peter?
Yes, yes.
And the chair votes yes and yes as well, for the reasons that Marty just stated on the record. 5, Public Health, Safety, and Welfare, 2906C5. Approval of the variance will not be injurious to the public health, safety, and welfare.
Yes, and yes.
Beth?
Yes and yes.
Yes, yes.
Peter?
Yes, yes.
And the chair votes yes and yes. No indication that this will cause any problem for any of the neighbors. 6, adjacent properties, 2906C6. Approval of the variance will not affect the use of adjacent properties or the area in a substantially adverse manner.
Yes, and yes.
Beth?
Yes and yes. There has not been any evidence presented that it would.
Marty?
Yes, yes.
Yes, yes.
And the chair votes yes and yes. 7, intent of the ordinance, 2906C7. Approval of the variance is consistent with the intent and purposes of the ordinance.
Yes, and yes.
Beth?
Yes and yes.
Yes, yes.
Yes, yes.
And the chair votes yes as well. Clearly, this is what the ordinance is intended with respect to our ability to grant variances. That said, are there any conditions or limitations we want to impose on this?
I certainly wouldn't want to see this 2-story concrete block going up, but, I mean, technically, we just approved that if we don't imply any conditions, right?
Depends on how concerned you are about that.
Yeah, do we feel like we want to ask that it's in substantial conformance with the plans provided in this situation?
Well, it's kind of typical, isn't it?
And we typically
I mean, that's pretty much your department, so I defer to you, but I
Do
think
we-
that always makes sense.
Can I ask the applicant a question?
Yeah.
Do you have any concern that you may need to change your plans in any way substantially? Or is this pretty much what you will be
Pretty
building?
much, if it did change to the internal, moving a door,
Okay.
something like that, but externally, yes.
Okay, thank you. I don't want to like tie into something that you can't. Okay. Good.
Then I would ask that you make a motion.
I would love to. I'm going to grab
Oh,
my
you want,
motion.
you want the motion back? Okay.
So I'd like to make a motion to approve the variances for petition 23 ZBA 003 at 7,500 Noah's Landing, tax ID D0418-100 038 SFH and D0418-119, which is currently vacant. To the applicant Joseph Holowicki, for a reduced front west setback of 12 feet rather than the 25 feet required according to ordinance section 7.02, and for a reduced east setback of 11 feet rather than the 25 feet required, and again, in accordance with ordinance section 7.02, with the recognition that there are several nonconformities existing on the lot, including minimum lot area being exceeded, a front setback on the west side that is currently at 12 feet, front setback on the east side that is currently 11 feet, and a existing non-conforming shed having the dimensions of 8 by 16 feet, with the condition that at least the exterior of the home being built in substantial conformity with the plans that are presented before us.
I will second that.
We can vote.
Aye, yes.
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 Chair votes yes as well. Congratulations, you've got your variance. As we always say, you've only got a year to get this done, so be sure to move forward on it.
Pressure's on. Jay,
You don't have to finish it within a year, do you?
No, you have to start.
Substantial start, yeah.
Yeah, well, I like to give it
Kick
time.
'em.
You're really putting pressure.
Yeah.
All right, well, that moves us to the really exciting part of our agenda. You're welcome. Now, you may not want to leave because we got another public comment section here in case this.
They can watch the tape when they get home.
Okay. So this is public comment on non-agenda items, not hearing any. That moves us along to item 9. All right, folks, we gotta give us a chance here. You bet.
really appreciate it.
We had a variance last year in that, down that road.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was someplace.
We're on to concerns of ZBA members, the Director of Planning and Zoning, and the Recording Secretary. So, Janice, we always like to hear your concerns. They're the most important.
Wow, short meeting, love it. You guys did a good job tonight.
Thank you.
We're not done yet.
Did David bring in another one?
No, we got all kinds of stuff.
David, do you have anything that's worrying you?
No worries. I've not received any applicants for the June meeting. Today's pretty much the deadline, so I will let you know. We also may have a conflict with the Open Space Land Preservation Committee meeting in July because the 4th of July is the 2nd. Our meeting is scheduled to be July 4th, which is a Thursday. But I will let you know in about a month if there's going to be a conflict, and we'll figure that out.
You think there might be a meeting in July?
Potentially, and we'll just, again, I'll know in about a month, and I'll let you know.
But probably not in June.
I would say, unless something comes in and before midnight tonight, no, I would say not in June.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any concerns by members? That would be a good time.
David knows that I'm going to be gone in July, but I just want to let y'all know I won't be here in July.
Well, then, we can't hear anything in July. Okay.
No good deed goes
And-
unpunished. You're trying to be polite.
Yeah.
Never know.
Any other concerns by ZBA members?
No, sir. Good meeting.
Okay, well then, if there are no other concerns, we're to adjournment, which means we're adjourned.
Are we not going to wait till 6:30? I mean, that just seems like we would wait, until it's right at 6:30.
That's nowhere on the agenda here.
I don't know what our previous shortest
Record
meeting was, but,
This would have to be closed.
This is pretty good.
yeah, this has to be pretty close.
The presentation was
It
like
was
2
the
seconds.
audience that comments that I think threw us off. I think we've moved through ones quicker when the audience didn't want us to tell us.
Oh, man, yeah.
That they
that
liked
could
it.
be- Yeah.
Well, we had two fairly